Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, I'd like to express my pleasure for our regathering again with my dear professors, dear colleagues, and dear participants in the 14th ThyroAlex Hybrid Conference. Thank you so much, dear Professor Dr. Alia and Dr. Tamer, for my invitation. Today, inshallah, I'm going to share with you a case presentation, but I will need your interactive participation. So please open your voting devices by long pressing on the CE button at the top right. Choose the letter of your choice answer, and then confirm your answer by pressing OK on the top left bottom. Our case today is Mr. M. He's 30 years old gentleman, married for 2 years, but with no kids yet. He reported being diagnosed with hyperthyroidism 3 years ago when he started taking carfilzomib 45 milligrams and propranolol 80 milligrams. He improved clinically and by laboratory. Then he started to down titrate the dose of antithyroid drugs till he stopped it after 1 year. He attained euthyroidism during his follow-ups throughout the past 18 months. Till now, it's a classical case of hyperthyroidism, but there is a question of why the patient didn't have kids yet after 2 years marriage. So the question here is, can thyroid dysfunction affect male fertility? I hope you all choose one of the choices in front of you. Don't forget to confirm your answer by pressing the OK button, the green button. Okay, the answer is yes. Both hyper and hypothyroid state can affect male fertility. By reviewing the common causes of male infertility, we find that thyroid dysfunction is one of the most important pre-testicular causes of male infertility. Thyroid hormones are very important for female fertility, and this is what we all know. But their impact on male reproductive function is less studied, and this is related to the lower prevalence of thyroid dysfunction in males and the lower clinical impact on reproductive function compared with their well-known systemic effects. The hypothalamic pituitary thyroid axis and the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis are cross-communicating with each other. Any disturbance in the thyroid hormones may affect the level of the gonadotropins, and impairing testes growth, spermatogenesis, sexual activity, and ultimately infertility in adult males. Usually, the affection in hypothyroidism is on the sperm morphology, while in hyperthyroidism, it mainly affects sperm count and motility, though both can cause decrease in semen volume. The main pathogenesis of male infertility in hyperthyroidism is related to the disturbed balance between the free testosterone and estrogen level, in addition to direct effect on the gonadotropin sensitivity to GnRH, leading to disruption in the production of FSH and LH. These alterations in sex hormones may lead to gynecomastia in males, reduced libido, and erectile dysfunction. Also, thyroid autoimmunity plays a role due to the presence of sperm autoantibodies and androgen receptor antibodies in men with TPO antibodies. Fortunately, management of hypo or hyperthyroid state can reverse all the seminal parameters that occur in the males. Back to our patient. After being in remission for 18 months, 6 months ago, he started complaining of symptoms of hyperthyroidism. His lab profile showed decrease in the TSH, elevated free T3 and free T4 with positive anti-TPO and thyroid receptor antibodies. His ultrasound on the thyroid revealed diffusely enlarged thyroid gland with moderate increase in vascularity, diffuse hyperechogenicity with no retrosternal extension and no cervical lymph nodes. On examination, the patient looked anxious, sweaty, with lean body mass. His vital signs were, his pulse was 90 beats per minute, regular, average force, and mild increase in the volume, blood pressure 130/70, and normal temperature and respiratory rate. His neck examination showed moderately enlarged goiter, firm, not tender, no retrosternal extension, no nodules felt, and no thrill. And there was no eye signs for Graves' ophthalmopathy. On reviewing the medical history of the patient, he reported being diagnosed with familial Mediterranean fever 5 years ago, and he is on colchicine 1.2 milligrams per day as a prophylactic dose. He also reported using contraception for fear of the teratogenic effect of colchicine. And here we cannot blame the thyroid for this gentleman's infertility. There is another reason. What is the relation between thyroid and familial Mediterranean fever? Are they co-associated conditions? Is treatment of FMF aggravate the hyperthyroid state? Is thyroid affection a complication of FMF, or there is no medical relation between the two conditions? The answer is A, B, C, D, or E, according to your choice and the number shown in front of you. Please choose the letter and confirm your answer with the green OK button. %, 28% choose the answer B, but the answer is C. Let's revise familial Mediterranean fever. It is an autoinflammatory disease with periodic attacks of fever, abdominal pain, arthralgia, arthritis, sinusitis, and erysipelas-like erythema. What is the difference between autoimmune and autoinflammatory? Let's revise quickly. Autoinflammatory is mainly due to malfunction of the innate immune system, while autoimmune conditions are due to malfunction in the adaptive immune system. The increase in the inflammatory state in FMF patients may trigger the autoimmune thyroid disease through common cytokines such as tumor necrosis factor alpha and interferon gamma. There is a study in 2013 for the thyroid autoimmunity in patients with FMF, and they concluded that although statistically not significant, thyroid autoimmunity was observed more frequently in patients with FMF. Thyroid autoantibodies were significantly higher in patients with FMF. Amyloidosis is one of the most important complications of this disease. Presence of heterogeneity in the thyroid parenchyma in the ultrasound may be an early indicator of amyloidosis, though the patient is still euthyroid and asymptomatic. This is another recent Turkish study done in 2020 to evaluate the structure, autoimmunity, and function of thyroid gland in FMF patients. The results were as follows. Anti-TPO was detected in about 1/4 of the patients. The mean thyroid volumes were similar between FMF and control groups, but the thyroid vascularity was observed in about 10% of the patient. Elastography revealed that the mean velocity value and the mean stiffness value of the patient group were significantly higher. They concluded that thyroid gland can be affected in FMF patients through autoimmunity or amyloidosis. Also, thyroid function and structure should be evaluated carefully for early diagnosis of a possible coexisting thyroid disorder. Is there effect of colchicine, the treatment of FMF or the prophylactic dose of FMF in thyroid? There is no direct effect of colchicine on the thyroid gland. There is only few studies about the therapeutic effect of colchicine in thyroid eye disease, thyroid arthritis, and thyroid pericarditis. Sometimes in hyperthyroidism, colchicine may increase the risk of diarrhea, and this is due to synergistic drug-disease interaction. Also, combining carpimazole with colchicine may increase the risk and or severity of myopathy, rhabdomyolysis, and myoglobinuria. Does colchicine treatment cause teratogenicity as was claimed by the patient? Colchicine is not a teratogenic drug. There was an old hypothesis to stop colchicine 3 months before the patient go for conception, but this is proved to be wrong. The effect of colchicine on male fertility, colchicine may only affect sperm proliferation and motility in a very high doses due to its effect on the microtubules. But within the therapeutic range, there is no effect on fertility, spermatocytes, testosterone, FSH, LH, and prolactin. Back to our patient, the patient restarted carpimazole 45 milligrams and propranolol 80 milligrams. However, after 4 weeks follow-up, his thyroid profile was still uncontrolled, and the dose of carpimazole was elevated to 60 milligrams per day. Definitive treatment options, either surgery or radioactive iodine, was discussed with the patient, and actually he preferred radioactive iodine, but there is some inquiries about the fertility affection. According to the 2018 European guidelines, definitive treatment will be mandatory for the patient with relapse of hyperthyroidism and not controlled on low doses of antithyroid drugs. Radioactive iodine, we have 2 forms, iodine 123 and iodine 131. Iodine 123 is harmless to thyroid cells and is used mainly in the thyroid scan with no special radiation precautions. But iodine 131 can destroy thyroid cells, and it's used mainly in ablative therapy for hyperthyroidism and thyroid cancers. And there is some instructions which should be taken, especially for pregnant women and children. And here are some instructions given by the American Thyroid Association in the radioactive iodine brochure. In hyperthyroidism, radioactive iodine is a safe modality used for definitive treatment of hyperthyroidism. It has been used in hyperthyroidism for over 60 years, and there has been no clear increase in cancer in treated patients. In the US, more than 70% of hyperthyroid patients were treated with radioactive iodine. It's administered by mouth, usually in a small capsule or liquid form that's taken just once. Only few patients may need second dose of radioactive iodine. Hypothyroidism is a common side effect, especially in large cumulative doses. What is the effect of radioactive iodine on male fertility? Does it directly affect spermatogenesis, causing permanent infertility? Or its effect is due to hormonal disturbance, resulting in permanent infertility? Only large cumulative doses would cause transient infertility, or it has no effect at all? Actually, yes. The majority of you chose the answer C. Only large cumulative doses would cause transient infertility. Men who receive radioactive iodine for treatment of thyroid cancer may have decreased sperm count and temporary infertility for periods of roughly 2 years. So sperm banking is an option for those patients. But in hyperthyroidism, there is only transient effect due to transient increase in FSH, leading to transient sexual dysfunction and infertility with subsequent recovery within few months. There is no long-term impact on male fertility after a single radioactive iodine ablation in treatment of hyperthyroidism. Actually, the impairment caused by hyperthyroidism per se is probably higher than that caused by the iodine treatment. And in 2018 European guidelines, just delaying the conception for 6 months are enough for fertility after taking radioactive iodine. Thank you so much.
This very important subject, close relation ما بين